Hello, everybody. Here we are, 4:45 BST, but that's just in the UK. So yeah, we've got the demo here today of basically how to deploy an Airnode to a REST API. And with us, we've got Andre, the CTO of ChainAPI, Ashar, developer evangelist at API 3, and Steph, DevRel engineer at Polygon. So thanks for joining us all. It's great to have you here. I'm just going to kind of quickly go through Airnodes, just in case people don't have not heard about it before, and then pass it over to Andre, and then get into the demo. So yeah, I mean, basically API 3 is known for creating first-party oracles. The premise of that is that effectively the API provider becomes the oracle operator, and that creates a much more efficient oracle solution and service. And yeah, the kind of key element of that is Airnodes. Airnode is deployed to the API provider, and that then brings the data on chain. You can read much more about that on API 3's website and our docs, of course, and there'll be links kind of supporting this within the YouTube recording. Over to you, Andre.
Cool. Thanks, Ben. So yeah, ChainAPI is it's a web application that is designed to help and grow the API 3 ecosystem by getting developers in touch with various first-party Oracle providers. So currently, ChainAPI supports integrating an API, which is the process of capturing that API or representation of it on our interface, and then actually going through the process of deploying an Airnode and then managing that Airnode through ChainAPI. So those are the features that are currently available today at ChainAPI.com. And in the future, we are working on it at the moment. We're building out the marketplace that will allow developers to connect with these various APIs that are on the platform. So cool. Yeah, that's ChainAPI at a high level. As I mentioned, go to ChainAPI.com, and all of our information is there. So.
Thanks, Andre. Yeah. So the demo is going to go through the ChainAPI process. That's the starting point, and that's where the Airnode we deploy to, and then we've got a final bit where we'll request the value of that Airnode. So I'll pass that over to you, Ashar.
Yeah, sure. I guess we can have Steph introduce herself.
Yes, of course.
And then we can get into the demo.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Steph Orpilla. I'm a developer relations engineer at Polygon. I met Ben and the API 3 team at Polygon Connect in Paris, and I was so excited to learn more about API 3 and all of the products that they're building, and excited to deploy an Airnode today and be able to read a REST API from a smart contract.
Great. Hello, Steph. I am Ashar. I work as a developer advocate for API 3. So I help people like you and other developers to basically learn about API 3 and how they can use it in their own smart contracts or applications. And today, we'll be going over how to deploy an Airnode that can basically serve an API on Polygon. And this is hopefully going to be a very easy process and not going to take much time. And that's what we want, like making it easy for developers to basically get started without much hassle of setting up and things like that. All right. So to begin with, if anyone is following along, what you need to have is a ChainAPI account. And in this guide, we'll be using AWS to deploy to Polygon Mumbai testnet. And we will also demonstrate how you can use that Airnode to basically read this value on chain of that API. So things you'll need before starting, you'll need an AWS account. I assume you have that, Steph? Yep. You need to have Docker installed. And you need a Polygon Mumbai RPC provider, such as Alchemy, or you can use the public RPC, which is fine. And you need a new MetaMask wallet, one that we'll be using for testing purposes. And then you need to fund that wallet with the faucet. So for this demo, we'll be using dxFeed's public REST API. You can potentially use any API you want, but for this demo, we'll just be going with the dxFeed's public API because it can give you data like stock prices and stuff like that. So the first step is creating a ChainAPI account. So you just head over to chainapi.com and you sign in with MetaMask. It's as simple as that. So we can have Steph do that now.
Yep.
Passing it over to Steph. Ben, can you switch to our screen?
So
Great.
I've actually already done this. It was really easy. I'll disconnect just to show you. I just clicked connect with MetaMask. It popped open my MetaMask. And since I've already connected from this newly created account before, all I have to do is sign a signature.
Great.
And I have my welcome screen.
Nice. So once you do that, all you have to now do is integrate your API. And that part is super simple too. So you should know what the API you're working with, like what the endpoint is, what the path parameters are. You might not be familiar with dxFeed's REST API. So what we'll do is I'll guide you through the API itself, like what you need to input in the path parameters. And then once we do that, it should be pretty easy to deploy the Airnode. So if we switch over to the ChainAPI screen on your browser,
Okay.
Ben, and you can just go on the Integrate tab on the left and start a new integration by clicking on the Integrate API button. Yep.
Great.
And now we'll basically be integrating the dxFeed API, so the name can be dxFeed, and you can have a category. It's stock data, so let's just have stocks. There should be. Yep. And you can add in a description. Yep. And the documentation URL.
I love that you have this as a parameter.
Right. Yeah.
Which is super useful.
Yep. So now I think everything looks good. So you can just click on next. And now you need to enter the base URL of the API itself. So dxFeed, the base URL is, I think
it would be
just a second.
Something like that.
I just need to double check, but that does look right. Yep.
Cool. Should I grab the trailing slash or?
No, you don't need to.
Okay.
Yep. And there's no security scheme since this is a public API. But if you had an API that uses an API key in the header or in the query, you could add that in the security scheme.
Cool.
Right. So next. So in the path parameters, you can go back to the tab you were looking at. And the only path parameter we need is like the /events.json. So that's the only path we want to query.
Okay.
Yep. And
do I need the .json here?
Yes.
Okay.
And in the parameters itself, you need to have an event in the name, in the query. And that's going to be user defined. So basically, you can prefix parameters so that Airnode always calls those parameters with a fixed value. But you can also have them be user defined. So if you see the value source tab, you can either fix that or you can have it be user defined. So for now, we want the event to be user defined, and that looks right.
Is it a singular event or is it events plural?
I think it's events. Yes, it's events.
Okay, cool. And so these parameters are just coming from this like chain of parameters as well, right? So like potentially I could add symbols from time to time.
Yep. You can also add in the format, because as you can see, it uses a format as well in the query.
Formats.
Yep. So if you go up, it says it's required. So
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, and we need it to be a JSON. So now this is an example of a parameter that is like fixed, right? We always want the format to be in JSON. So
Oh, got it. Okay.
right,
And
yeah.
actually, I'm looking at this table, and maybe I misspoke because this table has event as the argument.
Right. Yeah, you're right. So it should be event.
Okay, so singular event, user defined, and then I should add another parameter for the other required. Oops, sorry.
Yep.
And this is also user defined?
No, this will be fixed.
Okay. Oh, right, because you said it's
Yeah, and
JSON.
it's going to be JSON. Yep. And then there's also going to be one more parameter if you go in the required section.
Okay.
Which is the symbol.
Great.
Yep. And this is going to be user defined.
Okay.
So that looks right. If we go back, if we go down, all the way down, so there's something called reserved parameters. If you open that up, we're gonna we have all of these as user defined, but essentially what these are is that once the REST API gets called, what do we want to do with that data, and how do we want to push it on chain? So the path basically defines like what the path inside the JSON we want to like get the value out of. So say like your JSON is a JSON object with nested fields in it, and you just want that one field which has the price in it. So what you do is you define the path to that particular field. I guess it'll make more sense once we actually do the deployment. For now, we can just leave all of these user defined.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So you can click on finish.
Cool. And so if any of these things we needed to update, would we be able to go back and do that? Or is this a one-time deployment?
No, you can, as long as like once you've deployed the Airnode, you need to redeploy the Airnode to be able to edit it. But right now you can go back and edit it as you want.
Because I haven't deployed it yet, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so if I did deploy it, would that bump the version up if I deployed it again with a new update? Like, let's say I added another user-defined or fixed parameter.
So you can manage the versions. If you like want to edit in the same version, you can do that, or you can create a new version.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Anyways, so I guess we have our API basically ready. And now we can do the actual Airnode deployment itself. So if you head over to the deploy tab on the left.
Okay.
Yep. And you can basically start a new deployment by clicking on the deployment tab.
Okay.
And you can name the deployment anything you want. So
I forgot what we were calling this. dxFeed.
And below in the integrations tab, you select the dxFeed API. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And now you can click on next. And for the provider, you need to select AWS, and region is US East 1.
Cool.
Yep. Cool. And you can click on next. And here we have basically all our mainnets and testnets. So there's a bunch of mainnets. So we just want to deploy on Polygon Mumbai. So you can unselect the mainnets, and you can head over to the testnet tab. And there should be Polygon Mumbai right there. Yeah, there it is.
Nice. So if I wanted to, could I deploy to a bunch of these at the same time if I wanted, let's say, like Goerli and...
Yep, you
can.
Right. So you also need to have a provider. So you can just select one provider. But you can also have like backup providers, so that in the event like one of the providers goes down, it uses the second provider.
Okay, cool. And so this is just the number of providers within AWS, right? So like spinning up multiple instances or something like that.
So it's like the provider basically is used to make the transactions and to listen for on-chain events. So if the provider is sort of becomes like a fail-safe, where like if it goes down, then your Airnode will stop working. So you cannot totally be dependent on the provider, like one provider. In a production use case, you should probably have like 3 or 4 providers. Yeah,
that makes sense. And just to confirm, these are all within that one region, right? US East 1.
Yep.
So if I can't remember, could we have selected multiple regions too? Like if I had wanted US East 1, SFO, and
so but that becomes a totally different deployment itself. So
got it.
Recommend is we have people deploy multiple Airnodes, both on AWS and GCP in different regions, so that in the event of say AWS going down, the Airnode doesn't go down. So
got it.
But that's a different deployment. It's not part of the same deployment.
Cool.
Right. So you can click on next, and this looks right. Yeah, click on next. And now all you have to do is download the files.
Okay.
And you can save them somewhere and extract them.
Just going to drag these into my desktop. Cool. So this is the repo. Do I need this yet, or should I go back to ChainAPI?
No, you just need to be in that folder for now. And
okay, great.
Yeah. So if you open up aws.env, that file, in this file you need to input your access keys for AWS. You can do it in another like monitor if you have one. Drag it there.
No worries. I'm just gonna delete this admin account.
Nice.
I just created like a new IAM user really quickly, so I have the access key ID in secret.
Okay, that's great.
So I'll add those. But I gave this user full admin access. What would be like the right limited access to give this user so that I'm not like overexposing my account? So is it just to specific services?
We recommend giving full access, but having a different project for this specifically. There isn't any, because Airnode itself just uses most of the Lambda and API gateways and the S3 buckets. But if you want to be secure about it, you should probably create a different project and give it full admin access, because that's like the recommended solution.
Got it. Okay.
Great. Once you've done that, you just need to head over to the config folder.
Okay.
And open the secret CNV. And so here you need to input the wallet mnemonic that you've generated in the beginning.
Okay. So this is just a test wallet. I have no real assets in here, so no one has to worry about this account. But normally I would never do this. So it's just the private key, right?
Not the private key. You need the mnemonic, the secret phrase.
Okay. Shoot.
Click on the X. No, it's fine. We can still get it. Open settings within MetaMask. Yes. And then go to privacy, security and privacy.
Okay.
Yeah, and reveal the secret recovery phrase.
Let me just super confirm that I'm in the right account. Not trying to leak my personal.
No, wait. Is this just a new account, or is this like within the same MetaMask?
This is within the same MetaMask.
Okay, yeah. So don't do that.
Okay. Sorry about that.
So there's a
can I
command.
use the private key for this account?
No, you can't. You need a new mnemonic all in itself. So
Okay.
So what you can do is there's a way to
Um,
generate it. If you head over to our docs.api3.org, and in the search, just type generate mnemonic. Select the latest documentation, like version 0.7, in the all documentation tab.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, just select that. Yeah, and so the bottommost one, you can select that one.
This one?
Yep. Right, and just copy that command and run it.
This command up
No, the generate
or...
mnemonic one.
Oh, I see it. Got it.
This one, yeah.
So what is this command doing? Is it just generating like a
random
sample
seed
one?
phrase? Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And then it'll also tell you like the address, Airnode address.
Cool. Okay. So I'm just gonna paste this into my notes app, and then I'll know not to.
Yeah. So the seed phrase is on the top. You didn't copy it.
The seed phrase is at the top. Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, cool.
Okay. So this seed phrase you can copy and paste it into the secret CNV.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna need to fund this wallet as well, but that's not a big deal. Okay. So I'm adding this to secrets.env, and this is from the command line with that npx command that we ran from the documentation to generate a new mnemonic.
Correct. And if you scroll down, this is like the providers that you need to specify. And if you just scroll down a little bit, here you need to input the provider URL. So this could be the public RPC, or it could be Alchemy or Infura, or like whichever one you prefer.
Yeah, let me just grab my Alchemy.
So for context, for people who don't know what provider URLs are, you need a way to communicate with the blockchain itself. And these provider URLs basically help your application communicate with the blockchain. And Airnode uses the provider URLs to actually listen for on-chain API requests, and then also do the fulfillment transactions.
Great. Cool. So I grabbed an HTTPS link that I've used for a few different tutorials and things, and I'm pasting it in here. Does this look right? It's just the Mumbai and then my API key for Alchemy.
Yep. I don't think you need to put the quotes, so you can remove the quotes.
Oh, okay, great. Oh, you're right. There's no spaces.
Right. Everything else looks fine. If you scroll down a bit more, yeah, you don't need to do anything else. All of this stuff is basically generated by ChainAPI. If you want to read about it more, you can read about it. But all of it is basically has to do with ensuring that the deployment is up and running, and that you can also query the Airnode directly off-chain with the HTTP gateway and stuff. But right now we aren't concerned with that, so we can basically skip it for now.
I love that you pre-fill these though. So these are specific to me in my account, right? And those are just generated during the download?
Right. So like the heartbeat, what it does is it basically checks if your Airnode is always up and running. And ChainAPI will ping the heartbeat constantly to see if it's up and running.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, I guess we are done. So all now we have to do is run the Docker command. So if you head back to the ChainAPI website, there's a Docker command to do the deployment.
Awesome. So all I should have to do is run this from
the root of that folder.
Okay, cool. So I'm in the root. I pasted this command, and I'm just going to hit enter. Oh.
No, it's fine.
Oh, did I not npm install?
No, that's fine. So it didn't find the image locally, so now it's trying to pull the image from the repository.
Cool.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. You're popular today. It looks like we've got a warning. Is that okay?
That's okay. I think
the image doesn't match the platform.
Yeah, that's fine. So we started deploying it. This can probably take like 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay.
So we can discuss something else. Probably Ben or Andre can join back in and talk about like ChainAPI a bit more.
Why not? It looks like it's going through okay, right? From the demos. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions about ChainAPI if anybody has anything that they would like to know.
So I guess
things that you would like me to know about,
one of the things that Steph mentioned was basically, I guess she isn't really what ChainAPI is going to be is like this marketplace. Like you did this API integration, right? But you're like a third party. We'll have like the first party themselves do these integrations, and then you as a developer can come in and see all the integrations that are already up and running, and then basically subscribe to them and use them in your smart contract. So you won't actually have to do an Airnode deployment or things like that. Right now we're doing an Airnode deployment to show that you can basically use any API to do it. But say you want to like use like the official Airnode of dxFeed, that would be visible on ChainAPI.
That's correct. I don't have anything to add. Like, Ashar, you know it too well.
That's awesome. So how do I find all of these different APIs that are already available?
So that's actually something that we're working on at the moment. So the marketplace is not yet released. It will be coming in the future. But yeah, for now we've just been focusing on the API provider side, which is the whole integrate and then deploy and then manage. That's been our focus initially. And yeah, so this is all quite new, like this ChainAPI interface. It was only released a couple months ago, I think. So yeah, we iterating on what we have, and we will be releasing the marketplace in the future.
That's awesome.
The Polygon Mumbai Connect was in the works for a few weeks, and that was shared last week. Andre, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, so the Polygon integration on ChainAPI side was actually very simple, like to add another network, but we recently reworked the way that the whole network select works. So if you were someone who maybe played with ChainAPI at the initial release, you would have seen a different network select, but now it's been recently reworked to make it a little bit more intuitive and offer the, you may have seen the public providers. So we offer users the choice of also adding their own, it's not their own. They are integrating with an existing public endpoint, so they don't need to go and provide their own endpoint. So they don't necessarily need to have an account with, say, Alchemy or Infura. They can just use one of the public ones that's available, and that's just to sort of provide a smoother experience for someone who might not be familiar with how those URLs work.
Right. There's one other thing that I guess what makes ChainAPI so special is that all of these private blockchains, like I'm sure you might have heard of Polygon Supernets and other edge nets and like other private blockchains. ChainAPI would make it very easy for API providers to integrate with these private blockchains as well. So you can bring these APIs onto these private networks as well and have them like basically use them in these private blockchains, which is, I think, something I'm more excited about, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds like a super powerful use case, because then you could have your own APIs as well as your private chain, especially for things like health data, which is more sensitive, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And Steph, when we met a few weeks ago, that you mentioned that builders were asking you about how can I connect an API to the blockchain?
Yes, that's always the question, because people come from kind of like the Web 2 world where you're connecting everything to everything else. So it's kind of a hard mindset shift for people. And I think we all get that, like, we want the blockchain to be as like tamper proof and as secure as possible, but also there's so many use cases where you need real world off-chain data in an app for it to be like an interesting application. So people are definitely going to be interested in this.
Sure. So looks like your Airnode has been deployed.
Cool.
It says, yep, deployed.
Looks like I've got a receipt.
Yeah. You don't need to open that at the moment, but yeah, it should be in the output folder.
Yep, there it is.
Mm-hmm. So it gives you all the details about like when it was deployed, what the heartbeat ID is, what the HTTP gateway URL is, and stuff like that.
Nice. So if I looked this up on like Polygon Scan, I would be able to see this as like a completed deployment based on the address?
No, this is just the address of the Airnode. So like this is something that the Airnode, like smart contracts would refer to this address, and then Airnode would pick it up as like, oh, this is the Airnode, this Airnode's address. So
I see.
if you see it in Polygon Scan, it'll look like any other normal address, nothing special about it. But
this my address, the one we just created with that npx command, or is this like a new one that's created just for the Airnode?
No, this is the address. If you look in your notes, this is the same address that your mnemonic has.
Oh, got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this is like my address, essentially.
Yep. Essentially, yes. If you go back to ChainAPI, you can click on Finish Deployment.
Finish deployment. Oh, cool.
So, yep, basically your deployment is active now, and now you can use it to. Oh, there's one thing we forgot to do. My bad.
We might still have to fund this wallet also.
No, if you go into config.json,
okay,
in the folder, you need to remove the authorizer. You see that authorizer? You just need to remove it.
So should I remove the whole field or just the array?
Make the array empty.
Okay. Does that mean anyone can access it?
Exactly. Anyone can access it. Yeah. So basically, we had the authorizer set automatically by ChainAPI. But for the purpose of this demo, we want the authorizer to be empty so that any contract can call it.
Got it.
Otherwise, you need to authorize
was this my address, or who's the default authorizer?
So the authorizer is a smart contract where like you as the Airnode owner can go and authorize other contracts to use it. So it's basically Airnode basically checks that contract to see if the requester contract is authorized or not authorized.
Okay, so it's almost like a contract that manages an allow list for this?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
So we just make it empty, and we just need to deploy the Airnode again. So just run that same command again.
Okay.
Yep.
So is this creating a new Airnode, or is it just updating that previous one?
It's updating the previous one.
Got it.
So while it's deploying, what we can do is we can set up Remix and like import and start like writing the requester contract. So I have this requester contract already written. We can go like line by line and explain what's going on.
Cool. So do you want to just send me the contract? I'll paste it in, and then we'll comment through it line by line.
Sure. I have posted it here in the StreamYard.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just impatient. Okay, cool. So I'll just copy all of this. Oh, beautiful. I love when GitHub has good UX. Okay, so I'm just going to create a new contract. We'll name it naming the hardest thing in development, ChainAPI demo.
ChainAPI requester. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's go line by line, I guess. The first thing we're doing is basically importing the RRP requester v0. And that's basically saying that we are going to be interacting with the request response protocol. So we are a request response requester. And if we are a request response requester, we basically need to import that package to be able to interact with the request response protocol.
Got it.
So we import that package and then we inherit it. So on the 8th line, we basically say that this contract is a requester, is an RRP requester.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Once that's done, we are basically right here, we are hard coding the parameters so that it's easier to see what's going on. But you could do this off chain and you could then supply the parameters themselves. But right here, what we're doing is we are hard coding the parameters to the API itself. So the API has, as I said, has the symbol as a required parameter. It has the event as a required parameter. And there was one more required parameter, but we fixed that. So we don't need to provide that, right? It's always going to be the same.
The JSON, right?
JSON, right. So what we're doing here is we are basically encoding it in a format that Airnode can understand. So we do abi.encode, and then we specify what the next parameters are going to be. So this gets into like a bit complicated, but if you see our docs, you'll understand more. Basically, what we're doing is we are specifying what the parameters are going to be. So it's going to be symbol, event, and there's also three other parameters that were user defined. If you remember, the underscore path, underscore type, and underscore times.
Right.
Right. Those are basically after the API has been called, what do you want to do with the response? So we need to supply all of those parameters. And the first one is symbol. And we specify the symbol as Tesla in the next argument. And then then there's event, and we specify that as trade. So this is exactly how you would do it in the API itself, right?
Yeah. So what is this first one, the one SSSS?
That's a good question. That's basically specifying how many parameters are going to be there. So there's going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1.
Oh, I see. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got it. Exactly. So that's the 4 S's.
Exactly. And then once you encode all of that, you basically have your parameters bytes 32 argument.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So once the parameters are encoded, you can also do this off-chain and then supply it as an argument. But right now we're doing it for the purpose of the demo. We're hard coding it. Next, you have the mapping, a mapping that basically checks if the request is fulfilled or not fulfilled, right? So once you make the call to the Airnode, a request would be in waiting to be fulfilled, right? So we specify that this request is waiting to be fulfilled. And once the request is fulfilled, we'll set it back to false. So the moment we make the request, we'll set it to true. And moment the request is fulfilled, we'll set it to false.
So just understanding whether the request is complete or not.
Correct. And then that's the request data. So the data we get back, we just put it here. That's about it. Right. So the constructor is basically we are specifying the protocol address. Since this is like a request response protocol, it goes through a protocol contract. And that protocol contract is the RRP address.
Okay. And that is
this one.
This address from, sorry, I'm jumping around. This address for the Airnode.
No, so the Airnode address is different. The protocol contract is just one address on every chain. It's the one, if you open the config JSON back, open it again.
Okay.
You see the Airnode RRP contract, right?
Based on the download.
Yes.
Cool.
So if you open Polygon Mumbai, you can actually see the RRP contract itself. That will help you understand it better. Right.
Nice.
So every event that is made to every Airnode goes through this protocol contract. So this is like an interface for the Airnode and the requester contracts.
Nice. Okay.
So you can imagine like the Airnode RRP as like a notice board where like all the Airnodes post their request there. All the requester contracts post their request on the notice board. And then Airnodes will be looking at that notice board to see what request they need to fulfill.
Cool.
Yeah. So once that's done, all you need to do now is define two functions. One is the make request function that actually makes the request, and then there's the fulfill function. If you go a bit more down, there's a fulfill function, right? So you would make the request, and then it would get fulfilled in the fulfill function, right? So the make request function is pretty straightforward. There's a few parameters that you have to define. The first one is the Airnode. The second one is the endpoint ID. So the Airnode is like the Airnode we just deployed. Right?
Yeah, so that would be this one.
This one, yes. No, the secrets, the notes in your notes.
Oh, okay. From my notes.
Yes, so that one.
Okay, but this is about to change, right? Because we just redeployed it.
No, you use the same mnemonic.
Oh, right.
So it's the same.
Got it.
Right. So yeah, that's the Airnode address. The endpoint ID is within the Airnode. There are multiple endpoints, right? We just have the events.json endpoint, but there could have been multiple endpoints you could have called within the Airnode, like the different paths of an API. It's sort of the same thing. Like there could be different endpoints. And then there's two other things. There's the sponsor and the sponsor wallet. And the sponsor and sponsor wallet could get a bit confusing. But basically, when you make a request, someone needs to also fulfill that request, right? And in this case, it would be the Airnode. But the Airnode wouldn't like do it for free, right? You have to pay for the gas fulfillment cost, right? So within the Airnode mnemonic, there's an account that's linked to the sponsor account, one-to-one. Does that make sense? Right?
Yeah. So is that spun up by you guys, or is that something that I own as the creator of this Airnode?
You own as the creator of that Airnode. So the Airnode owns the sponsor wallet, but but the sponsor wallets are linked one-to-one to each sponsor. So only that sponsor can use that sponsor wallet. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So how would I fund that sponsor wallet? And sorry if I'm getting kind of like ahead of
no, that's fine. So sponsor wallet, you would just send like money to it like normally as you would. It's an address.
So how would I get that sponsor wallet address? Is that also in secrets?
No, so that's a good question. I'll get to it once we deploy.
Okay, cool.
Because we would need to deploy the contract to like derive it. I guess we have the Airnode endpoint, sponsor, and sponsor wallet covered. So we can go ahead and just deploy this contract. I assume the Airnode has been deployed by now. Like redeployed.
Yeah, I think it was deployed.
Okay, great. So we can go ahead and like deploy this contract.
Okay. I think I have to update my Solidity version.
So you can go on the left-hand side on the compilation tab. Yeah, and change that to 0.8. and click on compile.
Cool.
Great. So now you can head to the deploy tab. And yeah, change this to in MetaMask.
Okay, I'm gonna have to import that wallet also.
No, it's fine. Anyone can deploy it. It doesn't have to.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
Okay,
the
so I'm
requester
connected
contract,
to.
anyone can deploy.
Great.
So the RP address is the same address. You can get it from the docs, or you can also see it in the config JSON.
I'll grab it from config JSON.
Yeah.
But you said it was not this one, or it was this one?
This was the RP address. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so feeding the RP address in, and then am I good to deploy?
Yes.
Cool. Confirming that transaction. Looks good.
Looks good. If you scroll down on the left hand on the deploy tab, yep, you should see the requester.
Cool.
And the requester has been deployed, so we can go ahead and make a request to our Airnode that we just deployed. So if you open up the make request tab, yep, if you open that up, so we need 4 parameters. The first one is the Airnode. So you can copy the address of the Airnode from your notes. So this is the address that belongs to that belongs to that mnemonic. Yeah.
Airnode address, and then endpoint ID. Is
Endpoint
that
ID,
event?
No, it's in your. It should be in your config JSON. So if you go to this and just Control F endpoint.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, can you go up a little bit up?
Sure.
More. Can you type in RRP in the search?
Yep.
Right. So this is the endpoint IDs. This is the one. If you see the endpoint name, it's the get events JSON. It belongs to that.
So that's the endpoint ID for the get events JSON that we defined in the ChainAPI console.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. And if you go back to Remix, the sponsor.
I think I see it. It's in the response from Remix.
Yeah, I mean, so I was going to explain what's happening. Is that when you use RP requester v0, what happens is you are the contract becomes a sponsor of itself. So the sponsor, the contract's address is the sponsor's address.
Oh, interesting. So once it's deployed, that's the sponsor, and then you send whatever currency to that wallet to.
So the sponsor is the contract itself, and you send the currency to the wallet linked to the contract's address. So there will be a wallet that will be linked to the contract's address, and you send money to that.
Excuse me. Okay, so how would we find that again? So this is the contract. This is the transaction hash for the contract being created.
Yeah.
And then if we go into this new contract, there's something for the sponsor?
The sponsor is the contract itself, so you can just copy the address of the contract.
Okay, so this is the sponsor.
This is the sponsor, right? And the sponsor wallet, there's a command in the docs. So if you head over to docs.api3.org.
Okay. Docs. Where did I put the docs? Docs.api3.org. Okay.
And in the search, you just type sponsor wallet. No. Can you show the search again?
Yeah.
There's derive a sponsor wallet. Derive.
Derive. I see it. Okay, cool.
Right. Use the admin. Click on the use the admin CLI too. Yeah. Yeah, and that's
okay.
Yeah, I think we should restructure the docs a bit.
Okay, so I'll paste this in, and this will give me the sponsor.
No, so you need to specify the Airnode XPub, the Airnode address, and the sponsor address. So.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So all of those three are in your notes, and the sponsor address is the contract itself.
Okay, so I'm getting a little copy paste lost. Okay, so I'm grabbing the sponsor address from the contract. So that's this one. Next one is Airnode address, which I can grab from the config.
Yep.
This is Airnode address.
Yep.
Okay. And then last one is, what is XPub again?
So XPub is the extended public key. It'll be in your notes.
I see it. Yeah. Okay, cool.
So this XPub is basically used to derive like the wallet that we're gonna use right now.
Okay. So I updated those three params. Now I should be able to run this. XPub does not belong to Airnode. Oh, is it because maybe the Airnode was this one?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think I I grabbed the wrong address for Airnode.
Yeah, you put in the RP address.
Okay. Okay, so Airnode and sponsor address are from, or no, XPub and Airnode are from the Airnode secret mnemonic, and then sponsor address is the contract.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so now I have the sponsor wallet address.
Right, and this is the one you need to fund. That's it.
Okay, so going back to Remix, so I have my sponsor, which is the contract, and then sponsor wallet is derived from that command.
Correct.
Okay. So now I should be able to transact?
You should, but first you should fund the sponsor wallet.
Right, okay. So, oops, I just did something weird. So let me just send some of my Matic from the ChainAPI address to that sponsor address. So I just pasted that in. I'll just send 0.5 Matic.
Sure.
That'll just take a minute. And then as soon as that's funded, we should be able to transact.
Yep.
Cool. Okay.
Yep.
So looks good.
Yep, you should be able to now make the request.
Just make sure. I'm so impatient. I'm always like, come on. Cool. Okay.
Okay, cool.
This part can take a minute, right, Ashar, to show the value?
Yeah. So once you click on confirm, it should give you back a request ID.
Okay.
And that request ID you can basically use to see the actual request itself. So if you go into it, there should be a request
ID. Within the logs, or where should I be looking for the request ID?
You can. It should be in the logs.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
And so I look for the request ID on Polyscan?
Yes, but you can just monitor the sponsor wallet to see the transaction. So if you monitor the sponsor wallet, like we just keep monitoring this wallet to see the fulfillment. So yeah, just like keep refreshing, and the fulfillment should happen soon.
Oh, I see. Sorry. This was the transfer of that Matic. So we're waiting for the transaction in the sponsor wallet.
Yeah, exactly. With the value.
Got it.
Should I explain why that's the case, or why we need to wait a little bit?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
So Airnode, at least at the moment, runs on a cron schedule. So that means it wakes up at a certain time and then tries to action the request and then goes back to sleep. And currently that's set to every minute. So we need to wait at a maximum for a minute to Airnode to wake up, and then look at the RRP contracts that it's listening to. So in your case, Steph, that would be the that Airnode RRP v01.
Yeah.
So it wakes up, looks at the contract, looks for any events that it needs to action, then makes the call, and then submits the transaction at the end. So there's just that little bit of a lag time before those requests actually, before the API gets called and the fulfillment gets made.
Once that's done, if you have the same request ID, if you go back to Remix,
okay,
like if you copy the request ID and then go to fulfill data on the left-hand side.
Fulfill data right here.
Yeah, and just paste in the request ID.
Okay.
And click on call, and that's the value of the Tesla stock.
Of Tesla.
Yeah.
So it is $278.
Yes.
Should check.
Oh, cool. Nice.
I guess all of us checked at the same time. Right. So the one thing to keep in mind is we didn't. It's 278.70 because we didn't add underscore times and multiplied it by like 10,000 or something like that. We weren't able to preserve the
cents.
Yeah.
So would this round up if like as we get towards 279, or is it just taking like these 3 parsed integers?
I'm not sure actually. Andre?
As far as I can remember, I think it will just drop any of the decimal points.
Got it.
Yeah, but it's been a long time since I looked at that. So
yeah. So the best way to circumvent this is if you go back to the requester contract.
The requester contract within Remix?
Within Remix, and go scroll up.
Okay.
And just you need to add in one more parameter. So you just do comma and bytes 32 underscore times.
Underscore type?
Times. And then comma. And then you can do like 1000, how many decimals you want. So
got it.
Right.
And you'll need to change.
Would we have to add a new input within? Because I remember weren't these from endpoints or something within dxFeed?
So if you go to integrate, go back to integrate, and click on edit. Click on edit. And then click on manage endpoints.
Okay.
And just for now, let's go change an existing endpoint. Yeah. Click on that. Got it.
And this is just saying it's not going to be backwards compatible, kind of.
Yeah.
It's just trying to prompt the user to be careful when they make it.
So if you go all the way down to the reserved parameters. So these are the underscore type, underscore path, and underscore times.
Oh, okay. So so it already existed.
Yeah. So if you make it fixed, and you can say I will always have the value be multiplied by 100,000. So you can make it fixed, which is probably something you should do. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing me that.
Yeah. So, and you need to add an extra S on the.
Right, because we're adding one more parameter.
Exactly. So ideally, you wouldn't hard code it like this. Instead, what you do is you would compute this value off chain and then supply it as an argument to the make request function.
Right. So we're not hard coded to Tesla.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So that's about it. That's how you call an API.
Right.
onshore.
Awesome. Well, thank you for showing me all of this and walking me through. Like, this is awesome. And I can't wait to play with it some more.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. If it was weather data, how would the contract change from a Tesla?
If it was what?
If it was a weather data request, for example, would
I mean, like, if the ChainAPI configuration is like set, it's like just a matter of changing the parameters in the contract, and this could very well be agnostic of the Airnode itself. Like you could make it completely agnostic of which Airnode. The requester contract is completely agnostic because we hard coded the parameters.
Yeah.
That's why it's like dependent on this particular Airnode. But this contract, if you remove these parameters altogether, this contract could be used for any Airnode.
So yeah, so you could have some kind of like encoding of the parameters somewhere else, and then that's a input to the make request transaction.
Function. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you go to the make request function itself, down.
You would just have like one more set, and it would
one
be
more
like
set, and then you would pass it on to Airnode RP. Like if you scroll down to like,
got it. Yeah, instead of parameters here.
Yep. And the one thing I didn't cover is that there's one more parameter to make full request. That's the fulfill.selector. So that's basically specifying which
was that in here?
Line 47.
Oh, I see. I was spelling fulfill wrong.
Yeah. So it's basically calling. We are telling Airnode RP that the fulfillment function would be the fulfill. It's getting confusing, but we're telling Airnode RP to fulfill in the fulfill function of this contract. But you could theoretically have Airnode fulfill to some other function as well in some other contract, because we also define address this. If you see 46, line 46,
yeah,
that is the fulfillment address. So we want to fulfill within the same contract itself, but we could fulfill in some other contract too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So is that it, Ashar?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we achieved our goal of calling dxFeed API.
Yeah, there's a guide that we've produced as well, which basically runs through this. So I'll link that in the YouTube comments. And yeah, thanks, Steph. You've been awesome. Thanks for kind of joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for like letting me learn in public with you all.
You're more than welcome. Let's call that there. Thanks very much for joining us, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye.